Thank you all for logging in. I'm Renee, and this evening we're going to be discussing carbohydrates. Last week we talked about digestion, and we're going to go into a little bit more of the macronutrient of the carbohydrate. Carbohydrates are the most abundant organic substance. It comes primarily from plants. Carbohydrates are composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen in the form of CH2O. There are different types of carbohydrates: monosaccharides, which are single sugar molecules; disaccharides, which are two molecules of sugar bonded together; and then polysaccharides, or long chains of monosaccharides. Carbohydrates form cellulose as well as stores of starches and sugars that are primarily stored in skeletal muscle and the liver. As I mentioned, the most abundant organic substance, carbohydrate, comes from plant sources. And where do they get their energy? Plants get their energy through photosynthesis, coming from radiant energy that the sun provides for them to grow and develop. And then animals consume those plants. Also, we consume those plants and sometimes even those animals. Our bodies respond differently to each of the macronutrients, and this affects our metabolic rate. Your metabolic rate will increase by approximately 3 to 5% for the fats that you consume. And although fats are very energy dense, they're also easily digestible. So it doesn't take very much energy and therefore doesn't increase your metabolic rate significantly. Carbohydrates will produce about a 5 to 10% increase in metabolic rate. And proteins, because they are the most difficult for your body to digest, will create an increase of about 17 to 20%. Let's compare macronutrient digestion to fuel on a fire. Carbohydrates act like gasoline. When you throw gasoline on a fire, it burns quickly and brightly, and it's a quick accessing fuel for the fire. We'll compare a log to protein. It doesn't burn or break down as quickly. So the gasoline that burns very quickly, a log isn't going to burn quite so fast, but it is also a good source for fuel. And then you can look at coal, comparing it to fat. It's a good source of energy. It will burn for a long time, but it's a slow source of energy. You're not going to get the intensity that you get whenever you put gasoline on a fire. So thinking about carbohydrates as a quick source of energy, we should also know that it needs to be a significant source of fuel in your diet. So 40 to 75% of your diet should consist of gasoline. No, not of gasoline, of carbohydrates. That is, it varies per person depending on your activity level, on your body composition. And if you remember from the past weeks or from speaking with me or Michael, you'll remember that 1 gram of carbohydrate yields about 4 calories. The benefit of having carbohydrates in your diet is that it keeps your blood sugar levels stable. We keep talking about this. Whenever that's happening, your brain is getting fuel, your red blood cells are getting fuel, the nervous system, your muscles, they're all getting the things that they need. Whenever you're consuming enough carbohydrate, it will help your body maintain proper cellular fluid balance. Whenever you're eating a lot of fruits and vegetables, they can be very hydrating, and that's important. They also contain a lot of vitamins and B complexes that your body needs for energy. So we think about carbohydrates, instead of thinking, oh no, I need to go low carb, I want you to think about, yes, this is what I get for energy. Your body has to have it. Whenever you're getting adequate carbohydrate in your diet, you will stay full longer because glycogen stores in your body are full. And these carbohydrates, when you're eating complex carbohydrates, will be adding a good bulk to the diet. So when you think about having in calories, how much a donut has versus how much a salad has, you're going to get a lot more food whenever you're eating a salad. That will keep you full longer. And whenever your blood sugar or your glycogen stores are full, your body will begin to save protein instead of having to break it down to support the brain and the nervous system. Digestion of carbohydrate starts just like digestion of anything else. You put the food in your mouth, and your salivary amylase is produced to break down the starch into shorter glucose chains. About 5% of the digestion happens in your mouth, and then the rest happens in the stomach and the small intestine. The majority of this processing happens in the small intestine. And from there, glucose is made and it enters your bloodstream. As glucose enters your bloodstream, your pancreas has beta cells that release insulin, and that insulin acts like a key to unlock your cells, and that allows glucose to enter the cells and fuel them. Insulin is produced to help regulate your blood glucose levels for adequate energy and supply. The first thing that happens to the glucose is it goes into your muscle for storage and also into your liver. And if you have an excess of glucose, or if you ate too much or had a high spike in your blood sugar, your body will begin to store the rest of that as fat. There are two types of carbohydrates: simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. The simple carbohydrates are the monosaccharides and disaccharides, which are 1 to 2 sugar units. Your body breaks them down easily and can quickly turn them into glycogen. Also, any product that's been processed, bleached, or enriched becomes more simple. It becomes easier for your body to break it down. Some examples of simple carbohydrates would be maple syrup, honey, candies, cakes, juice, soda, those type of things. A lot of junk food tends to be simple carbohydrate. Then we have complex carbohydrates. These are polysaccharides, and these are long chains of monosaccharides, or you can think of a bunch of sugar molecules holding hands. There's nothing magical about them. They just take longer to digest. So this helps sustain energy levels because your body is breaking it down over a longer period of time. Some examples of complex carbohydrates are fruits and vegetables, starches, fibers, and whole grains. I kind of hit on the bleached or enriched products, and we're going to go into that with a little bit more detail. Products like white flour, white sugar, white rice, and I think you may notice a theme there, those white products, or you may have heard one of us talk about those things, the white products. These foods have been refined. The nutrients have been taken, or most of the nutrients have been taken out of them, so they are lacking vitamins and other nutrients that were once there and now are not because they've been processed. A lot of times you'll find bleached or enriched products, and they don't really put this on packaging because it doesn't sound as nice, but brominated or dehulled products. Whenever these products have gone through this type of processing, the husk and bran are removed from the grain. Sometimes even the germ has been removed from the grain. And this takes away those necessary vitamins that our body needs for digestion. especially the B vitamins. We hear about B vitamins being the energy vitamin, and this works because these B vitamins act as coenzymes that help your body break down the molecules from the food that you've consumed. So if you're not getting adequate amounts of B vitamins and even other nutrients, your body's not going to be able to digest things properly, and you won't be able to utilize the energy that you're consuming. When you look at products such as honey wheat bread, the first thing you see on it is honey. Well, that's a simple carbohydrate. And then you look closer at packaging and it says it's enriched. Enriched sounds like a good thing, but really all that's happened is they've taken away the nutrients and they've tried to add nutrients back into the product. So it's really important to try to get whole grain products into your diet so that you're getting everything that your body needs. You'll also be getting more fiber whenever you're consuming the husk and the bran of these grains. Whenever a product is enriched, they generally add simple carbohydrates like sugars and fat to enhance the way that it tastes and the way that it feels in your mouth. So let's talk about some examples of what complex carbohydrates are. Carbohydrates get a bad rap. We think, oh, I gotta go low carb. But as I mentioned before, really it should be the majority of our diet. About half of our diet or more should come from carbohydrate because that's about what our body is using as energy throughout the day. Fruits and vegetables and starches are all good sources of complex carbohydrates. Fruits like apples and oranges, blackberries, blueberries, strawberries, peaches, raspberries, grapefruit, the list goes on and on. And then vegetables like asparagus and cabbage, carrots, broccoli, lettuce, okra, spinach, sprouts. Again, the list goes on and on. It's not very difficult to think about getting complex carbohydrates whenever you think of them coming from a plant, because pretty much if it came from a plant, it's a complex carbohydrate. Starches would include barley and beans, black-eyed peas, corn, cream of wheat, quinoa, sweet potatoes, brown rice. All of these things will be providing starches for your body. All of these complex carbohydrates contain fiber. And fiber is also important in our diet. There are two types of fiber, soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. The functions of soluble fiber is that it will bind with fatty acids and it suppresses the absorption of cholesterol in the body. The benefits of consuming soluble fiber is that it will lower your total cholesterol and the low density lipid cholesterol, or the bad cholesterol. And this will help reduce the risk of heart disease and regulate blood sugar for people with diabetes. It will also help regulate blood sugar for people that don't have diabetes. Sometimes you don't experience any problems with that. Other people are hypoglycemic, and it is helpful to be getting energy that's constantly breaking down, and fiber is going to break down more slowly. So whenever you consume fruits like apples or vegetables like carrots and things like oatmeal, those type of things, your body is going to be breaking them down more slowly, and those are a few examples of soluble fiber. There's also insoluble fiber, and as you can guess from these two names, soluble means that it will dissolve, and insoluble that it will not. The functions of insoluble fiber is to move bulk through the intestines. This absorbs water and helps control the balance of the pH in the intestines. And insoluble fiber will help remove toxic waste through the colon more quickly than it would typically go through your body. This is preventative for colon cancer. And some examples of food sources of insoluble fiber would be dark green leafy vegetables, green beans, the skin of fruits and vegetables, whole wheat products, wheat, oat, corn bran, seeds and nuts. And you can look for the word bran on food labels, and that will kind of give you an indication that it contains insoluble fiber. Most of us are not getting adequate fiber in our diets, but it's important to note that excess fiber in your diet can cause some uncomfortable problems like intestinal bloating, gas, hard stools. So if you're trying to increase your fiber intake, or as you're trying to increase your fiber intake, you want to take it gradually and drink plenty of water whenever you're making the change from eating one way and then trying to eat clean. You will be incorporating a lot more fiber than your body is used to getting. So making sure that you're getting plenty of water to help move that through your system is key. Fiber helps control your hunger. It will keep you full longer, and it slows down digestion and absorption of food just because it takes so much longer to break down. You can find it in these complex carbohydrates, so fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts. And fiber is not a macronutrient like carbohydrate, protein, and fat is. So fiber in itself does not contain any calories, but can be found in these complex sources of carbohydrate. Getting enough fiber helps establish regular bowel movements, and that's good for weight control and also just for feeling better. It's associated with a lower incidence of heart disease and certain types of cancers. And the average diet should contain about 20 to 35 grams per day. So if you break it down, you should be getting about 5 to 6 grams of fiber in each meal or snack. So this sums up our talk about carbohydrates, and I just want to open the floor up to you guys. Do you have any questions about carbohydrate or the way that the body processes it? I've got everybody muted right now, but if anybody wants to open up, you can unmute, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Well, I guess maybe nobody has any questions about carbohydrates. We all know that we've got to get them. I want to thank you guys again for logging in this evening. Michael wasn't able to log in. Well, he had some other things going on this evening with his family and wasn't able to join us. And last week, I just couldn't get into it, and I was really trying. So I missed you all last week. Thank you again so much for taking time to log in and educate yourselves. If you guys think of questions later on, I think you guys all have my number. You can send me a message or you can send me an email. I'd be happy to hear from you. Thank you all again. Have a good night.